Terence Crawford hoping to fight Errol Spence in 2023, but Boots is mandatory or drop the title. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, so recently in an interview with Brian Custer, Terence Crawford was asked whether he would be fighting Errol Spence Jr. next year, 2023, for the undisputed title in the welterweight division. And Terence Crawford basically said he's hopeful, but he won't let Errol Spence stop him from feeding his family. You know, it's crazy that he would go after David Avanesyan, but still be talking so much about Errol Spence Jr. It's like you had your golden opportunity. If it was a matter of money, you know, $10 million, give me $10 million, we can make the fight. I don't ever remember hearing Terence Crawford actually put a dollar amount out there that he wanted for the Errol Spence Jr. I just remember hearing a lot of people reporting on Terence Crawford's behalf, and even Terence Crawford a few times say that they are lowballing him. And it's hard to put a contract together when you don't even know what the person actually wants out of the contract. So on one hand, you had Terence Crawford saying that they were lowballing him. And then when the official news broke, when the David Avanesyan news broke, they never actually mentioned a dollar amount. What was actually mentioned was the fact that there was no transparency on the back end money. There was no transparency on what is going to happen with all the venue money, all the concession money, all the, you know, the autograph signing money, all the back end stuff that Terence Crawford wanted transparency on where it's going and what's coming to him. That is the reason he gave for not making the fight. So, you know, it's crazy when you hear somebody say, like Terence Crawford say, that I'm not going to let you stop me from feeding my family, yet you never actually gave a reason to why, or a dollar amount to why you don't want to make the fight. So I don't see how Al Haymon, PBC, Errol Spence could have ever made that fight, because Terence Crawford could raise the bar, he could lower the bar. He could raise the bar, he could lower the bar. You could never actually put your finger on one thing and say, well, this is what he wants, this is how we make it happen. He just kept raising the goalposts and lowering the goalposts. That way you could never pinpoint exactly what he was trying to accomplish with his portion of the contract. So by saying all that, I'm saying that I think it was apparent that Terence Crawford didn't want to make that fight. And it's pretty much apparent that it's not going to happen now in 2023 because of the situation with Eimantas Stanionis, Vergil Ortiz, the WBA, and Errol Spence having to fight one of those two guys after his fight with Keith Thurman. And it's crazy because the Keith Thurman fight, people were reporting that for February, and we still haven't heard anything about this fight. So we're getting closer and closer, about 2 months away from that date. And there still hasn't been anything said from Team Spence or PBC regarding the Keith Thurman fight. So I'm not even sure what's going on with that at the moment. But we're going to go with the narrative that that fight is actually happening, and he'll be fighting Thurman next, and then Eimantas Stanionis or Vergil Ortiz after that. But for Terence Crawford, there's a totally different path he has to walk. You know, by taking the David Avanesyan fight and not taking the Errol Spence fight, he is tasked to have to take on his mandatory next. So he could have fought Spence, you know, potentially won, and not had to face Boots Ennis next. He could have went with a cupcake fight after that, or he could have went up to 154. But because he is fighting Avanesyan, that leaves the door wide open for one of his mandatories to step in. And his mandatory now, I believe, is Boots Ennis, because Vergil Ortiz was actually number one and still is number one in the WBO, but since he's unavailable because of the WBA situation, that elevates Boots Ennis to the number one contender for the WBO championship. Wow, what a decision Terence Crawford has to make. Now, is that a winnable fight for Crawford? Did he purposely do that? Did he do that knowing in the back of his mind that Vergil Ortiz will most likely go after Eimantas Stanionis, and he would much rather fight Boots Ennis? Does he feel like he can beat Boots Ennis? Personally, I don't think he can beat Boots Ennis. I think Boots Ennis is a better version of Errol Spence. I think Boots Ennis is a better version of Terence Crawford. I think he's a hybrid of both of those guys. And I think Boots Ennis is the future of the welterweight division. I'm happy for Boots, because by Eimantas Stanionis and Vergil Ortiz going down the path that they're going down, it opens a door for Boots. And Boots doesn't have to wait around another year, another year and a half fighting cupcakes. Because the problem I think a lot of people have with Boots is they feel like his resume isn't good because he keeps having the top quality fighters avoid him, and he has to keep taking on, lower level competition. Now, he's knocking all these people out. His knockout ratio is ridiculous, but there's still lower level competition. So when it comes to the average everyday fan of boxing, like a Thurman fan is not going to pay attention to Boots because he's not fighting Thurman. He's fighting lower level competition. They're not getting to see Boots. Even a guy like me, I do boxing commentary, but I wasn't made aware of Boots until last year when one of my subscribers put me up on game about Boots, and who Boots Ennis was. I hadn't, because of the level of competition he was facing, you weren't really hearing Boots' name being mentioned in the news, in the sports news, in the boxing news. There were his competition level hadn't gotten him to the point where boxing anchors, big-time boxing anchors and boxing shows were mentioning his name yet. So it's hard for the average fan to follow Boots if you don't know who he is, because of the fact he hasn't been able to get a high-level fight, a high-competition fight. But if he's able to secure this Terence Crawford fight, I definitely feel like that's going to push Boots up into the next level. Perhaps Terence Crawford feels like Boots is the next best thing to Errol Spence, even though I don't think the Boots fight will come along with a lot of money. I do believe Boots has a fight in the meantime. I can't remember who he's facing off with. I don't think he's even announced it yet. I saw on Twitter where he was saying he was going to be announcing his fight pretty soon. So, it gives Boots a chance to get another lower level fight in, get another knockout under his belt, pick up a few more fans, and then potentially go into that Terence Crawford fight and potentially get a big victory, maybe even become a champion off that Terence Crawford fight. As well, the Avanesyan fight gives Terence Crawford a tune-up for a guy like Boots, even though I don't think Avanesyan is a switch hitter or a southpaw, so it really doesn't, prepare him that much for Boots. But I guess it's a step in Terence Crawford's mind in the right direction. Will Terence Crawford drop the belt and avoid Boots Ennis? I highly doubt that, but there's a possibility that he might try to avoid the Boots Ennis fight. But I seriously doubt that Terence Crawford would drop the title to avoid Boots when, that's the only trinket he has to hang his hat on, He's going to defend that title with all his might, whether it's win or lose. Perhaps he can pull another rabbit out of the hat and get out of that fight. I'm not sure how he pulls that off, but if there's a way for him to get away from the Boots fight and not have to drop the title, best believe he's gonna try his best to do that. But if it's a mandatory situation and the fight has to happen, don't look for Terence Crawford to abandon his title to avoid Boots. Because, without that WBO title, he might as well retire. Is there a possibility that he retires? Now, that might be a possibility. I heard a lot of people talking about him retiring instead of facing off with stiff competition like Boots or Errol the True Spence Jr. Let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there. And we are
it's your boy Keys, neighborhood employee. Niggas knew that I was coming with fire. Y'all ain't up to my pie and up under a car. Your head under a tie, it's the S and the R. Player, we supposed to win. I'm in the booth focusing with coke in hand. Dude hate it when they see the chief running in. Ass mouth hurting like his wisdom teeth coming in. Now that's a roundhouse kick. Come round your house, letting rounds out quick. From Newburgh to downtown, it's that Midwest to down south shit. Y'all ain't fucking with.
She chillin', saying tryna put the feel on the mouth. What's good? She nothing, saying tryna show his niggas how to round.